Alright guys, we're going to do another video on Ecom ads and how you scale. If you're already at a point where you're looking to scale, you have a tool or a funnel that's already converting, and you're at the point where you are on ad platforms, you're looking for paid acquisition channels. This video is going to be for you. If you don't have a product, if you're not selling anything, you'll probably find some value in how you set up your ads here, but this is mainly for people who already have and operating a business and it's profitable. Ideally, we made this channel and Conversion Win about a year ago now to focus on just the ad savings part, taking back money from big ad platforms, from small businesses, and just clawing back thousands and tens of thousands of dollars for entrepreneurs from these big corporations. And we see it year after year. Businesses are increasing their ad spend and they're seeing less and less return for their money. We're at that point where you're looking for the next level of scale, then we're just going to be talking about those common mistakes that everybody runs into. And what are those profit killers? What are those main things you need to be looking for? And what are the fundamentals actually that you need to have in place for you to be looking at the right things? So obviously your ads are somewhat profitable. You're at that point. And now, before you start turning up your budgets, before you start going crazy and run your business into the ground, this is a point at which you need to focus on the fundamental setup of your ad account. Now I want to emphasize this before I move forward and talk a little bit more about metrics and ad setup. You need to have a fundamental setup in your ad account that will allow you to scale. Before you look to turn up budgets, before you look to introduce new product lines or a upsell of some sort, just milk the shit out of your original profitable product. That's what I love helping people do. We're looking at a lot of brands today that have a lot of potential through paid acquisition, and they're D2C brands that could literally convert thousands of customers if they were only capturing the data coming in on their website in the right way. And most brands are just scaling the wrong way. You pump more money in, profits are dying, ROAS crashes, and you don't know why. And people who are starting these AI tools and running ad funnels to acquire customers there. Obviously, your product is the first thing. I always talk about this. If you don't have a good product, then again, you're probably not watching this for the same reason that a business owner who already has a profitable business is. And the point is to say that at no point in your advertising should you ever have the I don't know response. When you're looking at I don't know data, you're going to end up with unpredictable revenue and pretty much unpredictable CAC. Your first and foremost priority is to look at your ads in a holistic way and find what's profitable and scale it. It doesn't matter what your platform is telling you. It matters what your ad platform is producing in the back end. So you guys are scaling based on the wrong things. And it's not your ad platform. It's the silent killer that you're not going to hear e-commerce people on Twitter talk about. Profitability matters a lot more in your business. It's just obvious. And people love to talk about revenue. It's much easier to get a lot of revenue than it is to get a lot of profit. It's obvious. And especially in e-commerce, with the 5, 15, 25% margins on some really crappy products, people really must understand what it is that they're trying to do in the ad platform. They start spending money to acquire customers at a loss, and they feel as to continue spending down that path in hopes of a future profitable period. And that's not usually what happens. Usually what happens is they run out of money before get to a point of profitability. So it is a silent killer, all right? It's a silent killer because nobody wants to talk about data accuracy. And that's this whole video. What's making your ads lose money? That's the only question here to answer. You guys are probably spending Your credit card is getting billed 15, 25,000 per month by Facebook. And what are you getting from that? A lot of you guys are just taking the results that you have as acceptable and then just taking a beating from Facebook for the rest of your money. So when 9 out of 10 brands attempt to get to that next level of spend, push past the $1 million, $2 million a year revenue point, that's when all of these issues happen all at once, and you basically go unprofitable all at once. Before that, you feel like you're getting to the point of profitability. You might be working off of a thin margin, reinvesting back into the ads, and obviously will depend on your brand. If you have a really good brand, this is not going to be as much of a problem for you. We can get right to the setting up your data part, and everything becomes less concerning. You can approach the entire fundamental scaling process from a much more relaxed standpoint. But if you're working off of a really undifferentiated product, then you're going to be working with a lot of competition, and you're going to be trying to compete for the same customers that brands are competing with, multi-billion-dollar balance sheets. And what are you going to do about it? You're going to end up outspending them? No, you're going to end up losing your business. And the entire point of the video, broken and leaky data tracking. That is the problem. Follow your customer from the point at which they see your ad to the point at which they check out, and see how much of the data are you actually collecting and storing on your backend. This is so important. More than just seeing your orders in maybe your payment processor or in Shopify. And just instead of just seeing orders, you need to see all of their website traffic data. You need to be able to see as much of the origin, as much of the profile, as much of the endpoint, and as much of the journey, you can say, of the customer. You need to be able to point at what segment of your customers are coming from which platform and how many of them are checking out at which rate. And you need to look at these segments. You need to look at these segments completely differently, and you need to treat them like different people, because they are. You need to understand that if you don't have a good understanding of that customer journey, you're going to end up with a brand that basically has no direction. You don't understand your customer base. You're not looking at that constantly. And I'm not sure exactly what you're making your ad decisions on. So, to reiterate, broken data tracking is probably the reason most people scale their brands inefficiently. They end up overspending, they spend too fast, and they spend with inaccurate and incomplete data. So you have to quit guessing, track what counts. Now, what counts is completely dependent on your business. If you're selling a software, you're probably looking for a different conversion than somebody who's selling, a kitchen gadget or a sports tool or whatever. Those types of things need to have a different customer journey, and you need to understand those customer journeys differently. And maybe you retarget them differently. Maybe you follow them, their customers, down a path for 14 or 30 days. And if you're just going with default settings in the ad platforms, you're going to get wrecked faster than possible. Mostly because the platform is not optimized for conversions on your business, and you may think it is because it will tell you it's recommended or the most common or most popular. That doesn't necessarily mean that your product is fit for that tool. And a lot of advertisers just make the mistake of setting up simple campaigns. They see some results and they're taught double down on the results, don't turn it off, and they're taught never, stop something that's working, which is true. Don't stop something that's working, but also make sure that it can't be working even better. You can have an app, set that you don't even touch, but if you fix the back end, your ad platform might actually report that there's more sales coming from that ad set. And then within that ad set, you're going to have a lot more data to understand your customer base. So that's the key right there. Forget about everything else related to your business. If you're selling something and you're profitable with it, your first goal is to be able to segment your customer base And even if it's only a few hundred customers and you're just starting the store, I'm talking about scaling fast here. I'm not talking about building a customer a day or a few sales a day in a $200 budget. We need data fast, and that gives the ability for Facebook to make decisions much faster. It's directly correlated. The faster you allow Facebook to collect whatever conversion you're looking for, and you have that defined properly on your back end, and you're feeding that back to the ad platform in a direct way, which is the server side tracking part of advertising, you need to have that direct link really to ensure 100% accuracy. And clean data flips into good scaling. I mean, if you have clean data, you're going to look into, if you have 100% accuracy in your data, you're not going to have any hesitation switching your $100 ad sets to $1,000 a day. Almost because you understand that the payments that are coming in on your back end or the leads you're collecting are directly correlated with the Facebook platform or the Google platform. So if that concept makes sense to you, you'll understand why this is more important than spending time on a new creative or trying different funnels. This is more important because this enables you to test more efficiently, quicker, and over time just saves all of your extra budget that you would have spent on ad sets with half-baked data and basically unreadable customer data, which Facebook can't even read. Hence, they give you bullshit data where you make decisions off of it and continue to spend on the platform. So how do we do this? Step one, track your cost per sale. Let's break this down. This is the implement this into your business. So step one, track your cost per sale. And I don't mean your CPA on Facebook. I mean your cost per sale in your own financial statement. How much are you spending on your marketing? How much are you collecting on your sales side? Or how much is a lead worth to you if you are a software company and you're collecting people in an unprofitable way? What is your CAC? What is the cost per customer that you're willing to pay? And understand, this is how much money that I am being billed by Facebook. These are how many sales that I'm getting on that day that I can attribute back to Facebook. Now you have a cost per sale. Divide those two numbers, you have a cost per sale. And as long as you know that your data is 100% accurate, you know that when Facebook told you that there was this many clicks, this many sales, these many customers, these many visitors, that you can believe that, and that's correct. So now, when you can believe your cost per sale, you can also believe your ROAS. You can also believe your CPCs and your CPMs. Everything becomes more clear. So next thing, flag ads now that are really wasting your money. Before, you may have been turning off ad sets that were profitable, that you felt were unprofitable, and they might not have been. So now that you can trust your data, first thing you need to do is cost savings. Go into your accounts, cut everything that is below your acceptable threshold. In this case, I would just put 30%, but anything that's just spiking in spend and going above a certain threshold at the wrong times, then that's an opportunity for you to save money. All right, so you've slashed spend that's not within your thresholds. You could save hypothetically 30 to 50% of your budget right there. Usually it's around 20, 30%, but up to 50% you can just cut right away depending on how developed your store is. And then finally, test. Whatever type of testing process you have before, 3x it, 5x it, keep making more videos, keep putting it out. And now that you can trust your data, all your tests mean something. And you might even go back and realize the tests that you've done before with non-complete data, you're going to run them again and find that some of them are still profitable. So that's just gold right there. Now all ad strategies are in play as long as everything else, now it comes back to advertising. But if you have the fundamentals down, everything opens up to a much broader field. You're able to look at your ads in a way where you can look at the data and be confident that if you were to 10x the size of your business, that you would relatively get 10x the results. That's the idea. Now that's hypothetical. That doesn't happen. 10x your spend does not correlate to 10x your results, but you want it to be as close as possible. A 4, 5x is still good, better than a 2x when you 5x your spend. So it happens. People 5x their spend, and they maybe 2x or 1.5, add 50% onto their profits, and they think, what happened? Well, they spent more money, but did they spend it in the right place? And typically there's hundreds of places that you can spend money on ad platforms, and there's a dozen ad platforms you can spend money on. If you're a big enough brand, you're going to branch out to all of them. So repeat this over and over. Now that you have good data, repeat the testing process, find what's profitable, and now it's going to come down to your product and your funnels. If you have your data on point, then scaling becomes a lot less filled with headaches. Now, don't rely on vanity metrics. Just don't do it. Inside your ad platform, CPC, CPMs, these are all just in-platform metrics that you can use to maybe compare platform to platform, but they're not going to be reliable on making decisions on where to put your money. So if you're spending $15,000 or so on ads between your platforms, you're scaling, maybe you're profitable already, maybe you're not, and you're still scaling to that next stage of advertising, book a call at conversionwin.com, and we'll look through your ads, find where we can just slash budget, bring it back into your business, and that's it for today.